Hello, Ross here from Primal Academy. Today you're going to see common core dysfunctions we see in our clients. We're going to talk about what they look like, how to spot them, why they occur, and how to fix them. If you want to prevent the chances of injuring your clients, which is the worst possible thing you can do as a trainer, you need to know what you're looking for. Now, this video is part of our core stability course. If you'd like to see more of that course for free, then click the free membership button below. And if you'd like to see the full course, then click the full membership button. And without further ado, here's Jim, Primal Academy's head tutor, and Darren, one of the co-founders of Primal.
Hi guys, welcome back. So now you know a little bit about core function, how the sling systems keep your body together, keep it stabilized and allow you to create movement. We're going to have a look at a couple of examples of core dysfunctions that you might see with your clients or in a gym scenario. I've got Darren with me here, our movement assessment, our movement assessor and injury pro and injury rehab. So Darren, one issue we see quite a lot of is when people are doing their lunges in classes or in, with heavy weights, and you see quite often that hip, not only on the front leg, hitching up on the side. Now, what's going to cause that? What's going to lead to? How do we make it stronger?
So it's classic. See this all the time. Lateral sling system. Basically, you've got your QL on one side, quadratus lumborum, and you've got your glutes, minimum med, etc., adductors on the other side. So the idea with the core, everything should work almost sort of in a cross pattern. So usually what's happening there is glute, minimum med on one side just aren't strong enough. And as the lunge is being performed, we go into a hip adduction. Essentially, the hip will drop in. That's very common. With proper core training, you can avoid that. It needs to be avoided because if it isn't, it can lead to, as that femur, the leg bone, thigh bone, will start rotating inwards. That can cause what's normally called lateral tracking patella, where the patella seems to be moving to the outside. Actually, it's the femur twisting inside. That can cause a lot of knee pain. And also, if it carries on for a long time, the way that head of femur basically starts to drop out from the side, you can end up with what's called femoral acetabular impingement, which basically means a lot of pain in the hip up there. That socket up there starts to wear and tear. And once you lose the labrum around that, which is like a sort of almost like a rubber washer around that side, that can cause a lot of problems. Worst case scenario is you end up having to have hip replacement, so it needs to be avoided. Simple exercises you can do are things like single leg hip extensions, laying on your back, pushing up with one side.
Like a cook hip lift kind of thing?
Cook hip lift. Also things like standing on a box with one leg hanging over the other side, letting that hip drop out and then picking it back up again. The way that sling system works is the QL on this side will actually hold the pelvis up, laterally hold it up, and the glutes and the adductor set on the other side will prevent it from tipping against the QL. So basically working those muscles in exercises like that, drop out, sit up, and single leg hip extensions, that's going to strengthen that sling system.
Perfect. We see quite a lot, it's easy to do a press up badly. Let's say you see quite a lot of people with their hips sagging down, so a big curve in the lower back, and those same people normally complain about getting lower back pain because there's a lot of pressure building up in the lower spine, and it doesn't look very good. It's not a very strong position to be in. So what's going to cause that? How do we make it better?
Yeah, usually that's a question of transverse abdominis not working very well, the trunk stability just isn't performing, and what ends up happening is you end up with most of the weight of the pelvis just hanging off the multifidus, the muscles in the back, the part of the core that sort of should the back part of the core. Simple way to fix that is to regress your plank positions. Go do a plank from the knees, make sure we get a little bit of tuck under in the pelvis. Contract the glutes so that we've got those working, get the pelvis into proper position. And if you can't do that properly, then using a band system to basically just hold around the pelvis, get yourself into a sort of a press up position, and then either use a mirror or a coach to just keep you in that perfect position so that the back is in good alignment, we're not sagging through, and just increase your time. You will need to be up to sort of 90 seconds, up to 2 minutes or so to really start working those muscles.
Yeah, need long endurance.
Yes,
Postural
exactly.
muscles need a long time exposure.
That's it. 30 seconds is not good. You can start with 30, but then you need to get to 45 to a minute to 90 seconds, just holding those positions.
Cool. We see, well, you see more than I do, more of the subtle issues, not so obvious from a basic coaching standpoint, or somebody who isn't like have a really keen eye for something. What kind of things do you see a little bit more often?
Yeah, so two common ones that you see that again have to do with the sling systems and have to do with the core, which are very often misdiagnosed or just not diagnosed at all. Classic one, hamstrings, tight hamstrings, or more correctly, taut hamstrings. The external obliques, part of the anterior sling system. The external obliques, one of the jobs of the external obliques is to hold the pelvis up, or more correctly, to prevent anterior tilt in the pelvis. Now, if they're not working properly and the pelvis tilts forwards, the psoas muscles, the deep hip flexors, which have a tendency to want to go short and tight, will do that. They'll shorten down because they're not being prevented from doing so by the external obliques. And then what happens is the hamstrings at the back will start to lengthen and become taut. So it will feel like you've got tight hamstrings. Usual remedy for that is stretch your hamstrings. So people stretch their hamstrings, that puts a little bit more flexibility into the hamstring, which just allows the hip flexors to tilt forwards even more. Bang, next day you wake up and you've got tight hamstrings, what seems like tight hamstrings. So again, working the anterior sling system, where we're working the external oblique one side, internal obliques on the other, using something like a half kneeling cable bar chop, something like that. It's perfect exercise for the posterior, for the anterior chain. That's going to help to correct that, strengthen the external obliques, which will help to prevent that pelvic tilt. And then bang, your hamstrings don't feel tight anymore. Another common one is similar process is shoulder injuries. So your left shoulder is actually attached to your right glute through the thoracolumbar fascia and the lats. That's your posterior sling system. If that sling system isn't working properly, particularly through the core, then the shoulders can become protracted. They lose their stability, so they tend to round over. That pushes the head of humerus into the anterior capsule. So instead of this nice tight fit in the shoulder head, we basically have a little bit of laxity. Then when we're raising our arms, you start to get impingements. And once again, you say, oh, my shoulders are a little bit sore. The first remedy is, well, stretch your shoulders off. And now you've just made the problem worse again. Perfect exercise to fix that. I think a perfect exercise for posterior chain work is a supine lateral ball roll, where you're basically laid on your back. You're using if you're moving out to the right, you're using the right glute to support you, whilst the back muscles are being pushed into protraction. It works the posterior chain fantastically. So they are two sort of often misdiagnosed or just completely missed issues that can happen with poor core training and can be corrected with proper core training.
And simple exercise.
Yes.
There's nothing mad happening. It's fairly basic stuff that just hits it right in the nail on the head. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, this is the importance of knowing how the core functions and which muscles are actually involved in core function, as opposed to what everybody wants to do, which is crunches, sit-ups, etc. So if you understand the core function, you understand how the core ties those sling systems together, then you're absolutely right. We don't need elaborate, complex exercises. Often the simplest ones are the best.
Even your deep breathing exercises are going to have a much bigger effect on somebody with a sagging hip drop on a press up than doing millions of crunches.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. People forget, there's four sides. We've got the front of the core, the back of the core. That's what everybody wants to work. But you've also got the diaphragm and the pelvic floor. And if the diaphragm isn't working properly because people are breathing clavicularly, a stress breath, then the diaphragm never contracts. That top lid on the box, if you like, isn't set properly, and we just end up with a rattly core, things just rattling around in there. So proper breathing mechanics is absolutely paramount. That should be foundational in all core training.
Well, thanks very much, Darren. A few pointers there to give you guys a little bit of an insight on what might happen if we're not training our core properly. If you guys have any questions regarding any of the things we've covered today or anything else you want to ask us about, feel free to leave us a comment in the section below.